Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. He doesn't say this, but there's gold in the streets in South Africa. There just is. Because it's all fucked up. It's chaotic. And from chaos comes order. There's places in South America. But I mean, it's rough down there. I mean, Sally and I were there, and it's the first time I've ever been locked in a restaurant with AK-47 guards protecting, make sure nobody comes in the restaurant. You know, iron bars. When Sally was going to go out and run on the beach, and they told me, not her, the concierge said, she's not taking a camera or a cell phone, is she? And she shouldn't wear any jewelry. And she says, better yet, she doesn't go running on the beach. She runs inside the compound. But, you know, I'm sure he's dealing with it no problem. Any questions or comments about Nelly? Cumulatively, in the last few years, he's done the most. And he came in April of 2018. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if he's more passionate, but he sure as hell is more ruthless.
Well, well, I mean, you can't, and he was pretty successful before he came here, but you can't be raised, similar to where I was raised. You can't live, you know, past a certain age without getting the shit thumped out of you, stabbed, shot at, kidnapped. And look at you. You know, you complain if you got a fucking hangnail. That's just the way it is, guys. But I mean, Thomas didn't, you know, there's no rough life in Toronto. You know, but, so it's easier for him to be tougher. And I don't think he's so fucking tough myself, but I certainly know tougher. But he just took it, you know, walk away from his business. Like I told you, some of you, your first deal should be you, and the rest of you turn the key. That makes it real simple. Anything else about Nelly? He's done terrific, though. I mean, bless you. Yes, sir.
Just what exactly did he mean by kind of like just judge the business?
No, well, I mean, he takes that from me. When you're doing your due diligence and it's manufacturing, okay? The sign's crooked. It's not painted. The building looks like dog shit. There's trash in the main drive. In the upper building, 6, 7, there's broken windows. The flagpole is got a flag that looked like it came from the Civil War. Not because of the Civil War, but because it's so old and battered. You walk in the reception, they've got 4-year-old magazines on the reception tables. Like in 1950 movie, you got a reception chewing gum, you know, and you go on from there. You go into the toilets. I was going to the toilets before. Toilets are filthy. And I mean, it's good for practice, but the first thing, you know, I knocked 25% off the value just from there. Then you go into the manufacturing floor, even though I'm not a manufacturing expert by any means, but I know when the lathes and the machines aren't oiled properly. I know when they're over-oiled. I know when they've cleaned the shit around the lathe. You know how when you get a haircut, the hair falls on the ground, right? You go into a barbershop and there's 3 days hair on the ground. I mean, it's the same analogy for buying assets. When we were buying assets in India, I didn't realize when we were buying buildings, 40 to 60% of all elevators don't work in India. 40 to 60. Some of the ones that are broken don't even have a yellow fucking tape so you don't fall in. I didn't know that. You know, I think I told you Gallup did a poll in 2016. 86% of the people on the planet are unhappy. You go to India, it's 99.9% of the people in India are unhappy, except for the rich. They have 5 stories and above. They have buildings that are like this around, and then there's like a garden shit, trees in the middle. They have nets for the leapers, for the people committing suicide daily. I asked Pratak Hegde, if you see this, Pratak, God bless you. He was the CEO of our worldwide Indian man, who made me look weak. And he said, those are the fucking leapers, Mr. P. Leaper what? People plunging to their death because they're unhappy, because somebody fucked them on Facebook. The country's on the brink of suicide. Everybody's there. They don't tell you that. There's some wonderful things to see in India. But if you're looking, buy business and move businesses, I mean, fuck. Leapers. I only saw one leaper. Some girl did a swan dive from the 11th floor. And if you're from the real high floors, you break through the net. Even though they're little guys like a Malaysia guy. If you get up high enough, the velocity, you break through the fucking net. And then they all get around, she broke through the net, and I'm taking pictures of her. No, she didn't lay airborne, but her boyfriend broke up with her on Facebook. I mean, same thing in America. They don't have nothing to leap off, but they kill themselves. That's where we are. Who gives a shit if somebody breaks up with you? Less problems. Use hookers. I'm telling you. It's a wonderful idea.
You'll enjoy this, but whenever I was learning to fly, the instructor I was telling you about, his famous saying was, if it flies, floats, or fucks, rent it.
Correct. Yeah, I've heard that before as well. Other questions about Anelli? And he's just, he's, of the guys that will talk to us, he's one of the best I've got. But the guys that won't talk to us, well, I can't really, but we got a bunch of them. But ready.
He said that he did like one or two seller finance deal, but he makes like really big deals. So I'm wondering at which point
I told you earlier, if you want an elephant, and I'm not telling you to do this, because you're going to strike out 10 in a row and you're going to say QLA doesn't work. But if you want to hunt motherfucking dinosaur elephants, I mean, the Fortune 1000, the FTSE 100, and whatever other, you just go down and see who's divesting what. Who's selling what? Those big company names that he named, I'm not going to name them on YouTube, decided either 3 years ago, 2 years ago, or 1 year ago, we want them off the balance sheet. Senior VP of fuck, whatever you are, get rid of them. And remember, you want to get them before they're written off to zero, because then they go to a different department. And it's the same buying assets from banks. You don't want them to be written off. You want them before they're written off. We chased the loan. We were unfortunate. It was a big healthcare deal. The loan, we wrote down from 86 million, 56 million, because it has to report within the quarterlies numbers, 36 million. When it got down to 6 million, I said, now. But somebody had already bought it. They must have been sitting in the fucking lobby in my numbnuts and I'm chairman of the company. That's not exactly, I altered the truth a little to protect the guilty. But the bank wanted to get rid of it. They probably waited a little too long, because you want to catch the bottom of the market. You're not the only one that wants to catch the bottom and the top of the market. But I mean, he's doing well. He's doing well. I mean, considering he's done this in 40 months, and he's a young guy, and I wouldn't bet against him to be the richest guy on the African continent. But he's pretty aggressive, and he's pretty enthusiastic, as you can tell. He's not a librarian that wouldn't say shit if it was in her mouth, his or her mouth. His or her mouth. You see the difference? I mean, to me, I'm jaded. It's as obvious as the difference between the black lady and the white lady. That's how apparent it is to me. The difference between the doers and the non-doers, not even the ones that flap their mouth about doing something they don't. It's just, and that's how obvious it is. And that's how obvious it is when you get out there and competing against these guys and gals. They don't care what color you are. They don't care what gender. Well, I say that. I'm not there, but I don't believe now in almost 22, they care what gender you were or are. But they, if cash flow covers motherfucking debt service, and he's talking about 3, 4, 5 times debt coverage. So for you to think they're not out there, it's criminal, really. But I know, yeah.
What size companies is he acquiring now?
Well, on the cheap end, one of his favorite is the one that he bid $43 million, and the inside management, blah 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 blah, and he wound up paying $50 million, and he bought that from a big telco. They decided they didn't want to be in that business. Now, some of the times they decide they don't want to be in South Africa. For him, okay. We had a 10-year plan in South Africa. It hasn't worked out like we wanted it to, so we want to get rid of it. But not just South Africa, Siemens, even the Onassis people decide they want to get rid of some shit. But when the Onassis people get rid of it, it is shit. They have run that motherfucker. It's falling apart. It can barely float. They got little minions and dwarfs and midgets sucking up the holes in the bottom so it doesn't sink. So when the Greeks in general get rid of an asset, you might as well just drown it, put it in a canyon. And that's what they do. They sink ships in canyons, and insurance companies pay off. That's rule number 101 for shipping on the high sea. And it's a miracle. In 140 years, my numbers are old, it'd be 180 years now, they've never lost a man at sea. And they've sunk 31 ships. 31 ships. They didn't sink it. It crashed, and how's that? It's a miracle. It's like Grazio's 7 wives at sea. What are the odds of that happening, Mr. Peña? So don't be out buying assets from the Greeks. Forget that. I'll take that back. Anything else about Anelli? Yes, sir. Are you going to ask me 60-40 again?
No.
Good.
Did he say that the accountants and lawyers were stalling and he had to kind of nudge them a little bit to make sure that the deal continues?
Yeah, but it was over holiday. And none of these guys, even unless you kick them in the balls, want to close deals over the holidays. Christmas being the primary one. Thanksgiving, which I think we're in. Are we in Thanksgiving? Okay. This is a long holiday. I mean, the engagement partner would not volunteer to be working over this weekend. And so you have to nudge them. And one of the reasons some of the guys use 2 lawyers and 2 accounting firms is, leverage, threat. And a lot of the relationships, you don't want them to love you, you want them to respect you. They're not congenial, slappy happy like in the movies. They're like Succession and Billionaire. That's why I wanted you to see those. And I know guys infinitely more ruthless than those 2 fucking programs. Those would be in the nursery rhyme. I mean, these guys that, they're just, but I don't even think it's ruthless, when you kids call me ruthless, it's just, it's a joke. Because I'm tough as nails. I am, I would stick my dick in your mouth and take your last breath away. But that's not ruthless. Not where I come from, it's not. I chopped your tits off and I chopped your dick off and shoved it up your wife's ass. Now that's ruthless. And I know guys that do that too. Every time I look at you, I'm thinking of Hong Kong. Hong Kong, people want to leave. They don't want to be under Chinese control. It's like diamonds in the street. And they'll pretend to not know what seller finance is, but they do know what seller finance. But I wouldn't be trying to buy assets in Hong Kong. You live in Toronto. You got to be there. And if you're not Chinese, you better have a Chinese partner. More than one Chinese partner. There was another, yes ma'am, Alexandra.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Your time, like doing business in the South, we tend to have like these really short weeks. It gets sunny, people go outside. They only work until
Well, I mean, these are the people that are trying to get rid of these assisted living in the area that we're talking about. They'll meet you on Sunday afternoon. It's like Margot made him drive 2 hours, met with him 30 minutes. Now, see, she thinks that's rough. She thinks, I've told her this before, she thinks that's ruthless. It's not polite. It's not European to make somebody drive 2 or 3 hours one way and then only meet with them 30 minutes. Now, if you think that's tough, we're from different worlds. Tough is, there's a guy there, a Uber guy said, I'm sorry, they can't be here. Now you got to drive to the Keys, 5 more hours. Which has happened. And they're not so pissed. They go, they drive. I say, fuck you. You don't know what tough business practices are. I mean, people are obnoxious. They don't value your time. And I told you the 22 meetings I had a year before Corona in Los Angeles. I couldn't even get a cup of coffee. 3 of the places didn't serve coffee because it was anti some shit. They went out to Starbucks to get me a fucking coffee. By the time I got I don't like coffee hot. But by the time I got the fucking coffee, it was stone fucking cold. Okay? And then a bottled water. They didn't have fizzy water, and they only had water in glass bottles because of all the bullshit, you know. And one person was over 30 years old in my 22 meetings, except me. And they come dressed like they're going to a Halloween party. 3 different colored scarves. Guys, 3 different colored scarves, you know, the short capris instead of pants. Guys. I restrained myself. I was going to slap them all. That's where we are. Okay, YouTube, thank you.